might start talking or before we actually begin, because sometimes otherwise we're just sitting there looking at the
Yeah.
screen.
That's never super interesting to look at.
Okay, so I am saying hello to everyone who's joining us live. I had promised that I would join you today. I'm just going to make sure we're showing up. Yay, we are live. So close my Facebook. I am here with Alyssa, and Alyssa is the founder of, so I still see her old name, Boss Frequency. And I'm going to introduce both of us, and we're going to share some juicy stuff. So if you're an entrepreneur, whether you've been in the trenches for a while, even if you're changing directions or you're starting new, there will be some bits in here for you for sure. So if you're new to my page, my name is Ramona and my business is Ramona K Coaching. I'm a women's and empowerment coach, but I really specialize in releasing trauma and getting women really connected to their bodies in a different way so they can take care of themselves and enjoy taking care of themselves. And when I connect with entrepreneurs, quite often by working with these areas, especially the nervous system, it makes it easier to meet the challenges of being an entrepreneur instead of getting stuck in cycles that aren't working. So Alyssa, I invite you to give a little introduction of yourself.
Yes, thank you. And thanks for having me. So, my name is Alyssa Knapp, and I am in the midst of a rebrand. So, my business was Integrative Wellness Journeys, and you'll see me now as Boss Frequency, which I'm super excited about because I actually made a transition over the last couple of years from more holistic coaching, spiritual work, Reiki master teacher, things of that nature, into actually supporting other entrepreneurs in their business growth journey, specifically holistic practitioners, people who are in this health and wellness space, and yeah, really helping them to create aligned businesses in a way that does not burn them out. So when I first started in wellness, so I've been in the industry for like 17 years now, which is crazy. And when I first started, it was all about corporate wellness and worksite wellness, and the whole idea of the fact that we spend all of our time at work, right, doing all of the things, and we spend very little time outside of that. And oftentimes that time that's spent outside of work is spent very stressed, right, because of what happens during our work hours. So the whole idea around worksite wellness is making sure that you are managing your work-life balance, right? Making sure that you're taking care of yourself, that you're managing things like your stress levels, your blood pressure, right? Like all of these things for total well-being, right? For a more holistic well-being. And then when I transitioned into working with people specifically around, like when I did more of like the coaching and the healing work, it was really specifically around anxiety, emotional wellness, things of that nature, right? And then the kind of spiritual connection between all of it. And what I was finding just with working so many entrepreneurs and things of that nature is that work-life balance is almost worse in entrepreneurs than people who are still working in corporate or in a 9 to 5 or for other people. And I just became really fascinated with that, and then became really passionate about helping entrepreneurs to again build structure and foundations in their business that support them so they don't have to go through on that hamster wheel and go through all of the motions of doing all of these things that you just don't like, but you think that you need to do it because you're a business owner. And while obviously there are always nuances, there's some things like you are going to have to learn to market yourself at some point, right? We gotta find peace with the marketing part. But there are also things that we just don't have to follow the rules and the structure of the traditional way of working. And that's what I have found entrepreneurship has been for me personally, and for a lot of the people that I work with. I'd love to hear your perspective, Ramona, too. That there's just a lot of deconditioning that has to happen when you start your business, that it's no longer about hustle. It's no longer about the grind. It's no longer about hours, number of hours that you're spending. And instead, it needs to be about other markers of success, like your quality of life, like your actual freedom. Like I hear people say all the time, I started this business for freedom and I'm working more than I even did, in my other job, which can happen. It can happen, especially because when it's our businesses versus just our role as a employee, for example, It's, we are looking at this as a reflection of our worth, right? We are looking at this as a reflection of ourselves. And if this fails, I am a failure, right? So we put all of this pressure on ourselves to perform. And what happens along the way, especially if we don't get that positive feedback of clients or of actually doing the work that we love as business owners, right? Whether it's working with people, as a coach or a trainer or, whatever these modalities are that we are practicing, that we are using, we don't have we're not getting that outlet, right? Where we're like really enjoying how we're spending our time and what we're doing. And we get stuck just in constant marketing, admin, back end stuff. I mean, then you get into the online business world and everywhere you look, it's build an online course, build a funnel, do this. And don't get me wrong, I love funnels. I love me some funnels, and it's also not all for everyone. So when I talk about building a life first business, it's about first recognizing like what's the lifestyle that you want to be living? Like what hours do you actually want to be working? What makes sense for you, for your family, for your lifestyle? How do we fit your values into the way that you're building your business and the way that you market yourself? This is another thing that I see come up a lot with entrepreneurs, especially in this holistic wellness space, right? Don't relate to pain point marketing. Like, I'm sorry, I just don't like hitting people where it hurts, and kicking them when they're down, right? Like, it doesn't feel good about it, right? So it's recognizing who we are as people, what our values are, how we really want to build, and letting ourselves really lead when it comes to what's the next step that I actually have to take. So it's really about looking at your life, looking at who you are as an individual, not just what some expert is talking about, not just what some framework says that you have to do in order to be successful. I mean, I find just like, let's say for fitness, for example, right? Well, if somebody's starting a fitness program, it's helpful to know and understand the structure of a workout, right? Well, you want to work your larger muscle groups before your smaller muscle groups, or you want to warm up, before you start strength training, right? Like these principles are really helpful. But then once you understand, then you can make your workout your own, right? And business is the same way. We can understand how business works. We can understand what sales psychology is. We can understand what different types of offers are, right? All of these things. And then we get to make it our own. Then we get to really put our own flavor and our own spin on it. And then we can create our business around ourselves and around how we want to show up instead of doing it all just as a reaction to what somebody else is saying, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like for me, like even just entering into entrepreneurship, like a lot of people like me who've gone into more of the healing work, we're a little more sensitive and we don't fit well into the business box model. The masculine model is damaging. Even like being an employee is quite often damaging, like the way that companies are structured, horrible. But I found too quite often whenever I would try to integrate strategy into my business, it actually made things harder. It felt like I was working harder and getting less outcome.
Mm.
So for me, along the way, I realized I was bumping up against trauma, and I find this does happen for some of my clients. We need to kind of get underneath and release what's driving your nervous system to brace or protect. But then, like you said, like learning some stuff that is universal. Like, how do you speak to clients in a way that helps them see how you help and to understand what you're solving and for them to recognize that you're a good fit for them? And that's a skill that's learned and it's not automatic at all. But the rest, I think when you can come back to your body and recognize, yes, this is for me, or no, this is not for me, or no, not right now, it gets our nervous system a little more settled because we trust we don't have that FOMO. We're not always worried that we're going to miss out on the next great shiny thing. And we can settle into trusting ourselves and our path and how we serve while still learning and getting better at our craft. So, a question I would ask for you so that listeners can go, oh, yes, this is for me. What's a couple things that you're going to just help them with in our little discussion here that will help them? Because it's all nice to say work-life balance. La-di-da, we've been talking about this since I was a teenager. So what? What are you going to tell me that's different?
Yeah. So what I'm going to tell you that's different is really looking at your schedule, right? So almost like reverse engineering in a sense of like really figuring out like how, again, how is it that you're wanting to set your business up and your life up and your schedule up? And then how are your offers supporting that? How are the things that you're selling and the things that you're doing supporting that? For example, we might say that we want a business that we're only working, 15 hours a week or 20 hours a week or something like that and make X amount of money. But if the offers that you're selling are out of alignment with that model, then you're going to really you're going to butt heads with what your intention is, with what your goal is. So one key thing is looking at what you're again, what you want it to look like, and then making sure that your business model is actually set up to support that. So then we want to make sure that the offers that you're selling are reflective of what you're saying that you want. Likewise, you can't necessarily build something on something that's like just one-off sessions, this and that, if you're like looking to build and scale, right? So then you have to look at packaging certain things in such a way that really helps you to lean into again what that goal and what that intention is. And one thing I usually recommend clients to do, and oftentimes when people come to me, they're already really good at what they do. You know what I mean? They've already been like doing this, collecting the certifications and the this and the that, and practicing all of these different things. So normally there's like a smorgasbord, right, of different offerings and services, and there's, it becomes very convoluted. So bringing things together and packaging them in a way that delivers the transformation that you're really wanting to help your clients with, and then packaging that from a price standpoint as well as an energy standpoint. And when I say energy, I mean the energy it's taking for you to output, whether that's in the exchange of time is typically what we're looking at, right? But also maybe if it's certain deliverables happening on the back end, like maybe you're putting a program together for somebody within this certain offer, or you're putting, some type of flow together or whatever, like depending on what energy goes in. And you look at all of that and you say, okay, based on all of this, right? Like how many clients do I need based on this? And then you can supplement and say, okay, well, I really only want a couple of these types of clients and this price point. So then we're looking at, okay, what other offers are we sort of filling in the gap that are going to be helpful and help to meet what that financial goal is for your business, if that's what's driving you. For many of us it is. If it's not, that's fine. Then I would say instead really look at the feelings, like how do you really want to feel in your business? How much time do you want to be spending within all of this, right? But for many, it's trying to get to a certain financial point. And then, so again, sort of like working with all of that information to sort of say, okay, based on this is what I need to do, right? So that's sort of the first step, really looking at the offers, making sure that the offers are aligned. And then I would say the second step is
Well, I'm going to pause there for a second.
Oh, go ahead.
I want to just hone in for a sec so people
Sure.
can be like, okay, so what I'm hearing, just to summarize, if you're just joining in or you're a skimmer, is we don't just look at, how much free time do I have? What do I want to feel? How many trips do I want to take? We're going to get you out of the weeds because you're too close to your business. And we're going to look at what exactly are you offering and what's the actual reality of offering this, what you do to meet your financial needs or above, right? Because sometimes there's a mismatch, like you're saying, and it's like, okay, we need to do a little reality check here. Is you're not going to have this amount of spare time or free time or whatever it is that you're desiring with doing these many clients one-on-one, right? And I think that's really important to recognize, is that you need sometimes fresh eyes and a fresh perspective of what can you do with what you're offering, or how can maybe what you're delivering be streamlined a little bit. Am I understanding you right?
100%.
Okay.
Beautiful
So
summation.
this is hugely important, because sometimes you just get caught up in the doing and the discovery calls and the onboarding clients, and you're all over the place. It's like, okay, what am I offering? How can it be streamlined? Or what is realistic in the way that I'm serving? Because I think that's important. We can't just decide, well, I want this much free time. Well, if you have any income requirements, you're going to need to be more specific in how you're going to meet that.
Yes. Exactly, exactly. And I love the point that you brought up about streamlining too, because that's a really important piece and a piece I'll come back to because usually, like, once we kind of have that offer piece figured out, like, okay, this is aligned, this is matching, like, what I'm saying I want and the time that I have and all of these things, then we're looking at the channels, right? Then I like to look at the marketing channels and the sales strategy that are going to be really helpful, right? Because then it's going to tell you where is it that I need to be showing up, how I want to be showing up and what's my strategy to actually fill the spots in these offers. So looking at what that is, and this is where it can look very different for different people, right? Because you might like showing up in one way, I might like showing up in another way, right? Like we may just shine in different areas, whether it's showing up on video, speaking on a podcast, writing, blogging, right? Like networking in person, one on one. Like there's no end to ways that we can be marketing ourselves. And I think that it's very easy to get hung up that like, oh, I have to be showing up on Instagram. Oh, I have to start a YouTube channel. Oh, I have to all of these things when really it's more important that you do one or two well and that you enjoy doing and that does not drain the life out of you when you're doing it, right? So looking at the different channels that you show up best, that you feel like you can get behind, and maybe there's some learning that has to happen there, right? Maybe there's a course or something to, again, like we said before, right? Just to learn the basics and the sort of like best practices, if you will, within those, and then you can kind of make it your own. But usually choosing that, and then again, we're getting closer to really building out the schedule, right? We're kind of getting closer to like say, okay, if this is how many hours I'm spending on clients, right? This is what what's kind of taking my time within that, and then these are the channels I want to show up on. What do I need to do then? What kind of time, what kind of space do I need in my week in order to actually show up? Because what happens sometimes we get hung up on the calls, on the this, doing the thing, working on the things that you sometimes at the end of the day you might not even have the energy or time to be posting on something. And then you kind of get into this cycle of dry spell, right? Because you didn't have time to advertise and now maybe packages ran out, right? And now you need to fill new spots and new leads, come in, right? And then that creates more pressure. So looking at the channels, 1 to 3, I'll say max, 1 to 3 channels that you feel really good, that you like to show up. Maybe you're learning more and developing more skills in that area. And then kind of, developing again, whatever your strategy is going to be from that point. And
Yeah, I'll
yeah, go ahead.
throw a thought in here too. Like, I think it's easy in this digital world, again, the FOMO and the bright, shiny object, to throw yourself into more and more and more. And if you have the capacity and the means to be present in many places, that's cool. But I find I have to check in with myself. Is this burning me out? Do I need to pull back a little bit on this thing or let it go? Right. And I think what you're saying too is master your messaging in your main avenues, whether it's in-person networking, speaking, a social media channel that you enjoy, where the people that you need to see are hanging out, and getting better at conveying your message rather than just being present and showing up, but learning how to speak to your ideal clients.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Yep, exactly. And then from there, it's really looking at, again, kind of coming back to the streamlining piece that you had mentioned before, right? I'm all about systems. I love setting up systems because systems make our life easier, right? It takes the guessing out and it takes, thinking out and it helps you understand maybe where you can skip steps, maybe where you can streamline something, make it go a little bit more smoothly, right? So once you have the system of within these offers, within these channels that you're showing up, then you can sort of have, okay, a system you can follow consistently, which is going to save you energy. It's going to save you time and energy in doing that instead of every week reinventing the wheel. Every week I don't even know what I'm talking about. Where am I going? Right. And you're kind of like digging and searching for all of these things. So having a system and giving yourself what I like to call like CEO time, whether that's a CEO day a week or an afternoon a week, or, maybe it's a day a month or whatever it is that works within your schedule, your timing, but making sure that you have that time to do that bigger picture thinking, to create that content that feels aligned, to fine tune that messaging, right? To do all of these things. But honestly, I think the most important piece within all of this, especially as we're talking in the context of building a life first business, right? Like these are the business aspects of it, right? Your offer, your marketing, your messaging, right? Like the delivery, the sales piece of it. But then I think, and I'm sure you'll agree, is almost a more important piece of your self-care. Right? And making sure that you're taking time to do the things that you love, to make sure that you're taking time to regulate your nervous system, to make sure you're taking the time to really check in and do these things so that you don't just kind of keep going on autopilot, so that you have the time and the space to come and check back in with yourself, with your intuition, with your body, because it's when we just get caught up in the doing and in the stuff that we start to lose that connection, and then things kind of get a little out of control, right? Or we might not even notice until you kind of hit that point of burnout. So making sure that you're scheduling that time for yourself, whether it's, some people it might be mornings, other people it might be a lunchtime break, some it's, more in the evening. So it's really looking at what works best for you. Like, when do you get your best work done, right? And for me, it's first thing in the morning. I'm an early riser. I like to get up. If I didn't have young kids that I had to take care of, very, very early, that someday that I'll come back to this being my most productive time for work. But just know yourself, right? Know, like, when do you get the best work done? When are your low times? When do you need a nap? Like for me, I kind of shut down 2 o'clock. I'm like, you know what? I am no good to anybody right now. That's when I'm gonna go eat my lunch, take my walk, do my things for me, right? So it's also, this is again where that individuality part comes in, of saying, like, what is it that you need, right? Making sure rest is a part of that, making sure doing things just for fun. As entrepreneurs, we can get really stuck in the habit of making everything about work, everything we're learning, everything we're consuming, everything we're doing to get better at our craft or better at our marketing or whatever. And that can really, really lead to burnout. So kind of come back to doing things just for fun, just to do them, and make sure that that's a part of your schedule.
Yeah, I know for me, like I can tell when I've neglected myself a little too much is when I start losing joy in my work, or I start not wanting to show up, or I get like short with my family. Um, and it's usually when I'm pushed a little hard. Like sometimes there is times in business when we are pushing a little harder, like we're doing a launch, we're meeting deadlines, but it's not all just sunshine and rainbows all the time. Sometimes we got to get stuff done. But what I like to think about is when I know this is coming, I schedule some empty time on my calendar directly after that. So a morning of nothing, right? Whatever it is, to know that you need to proactively balance that. And I'm a big fan too of automation. Like when I'm helping women to restore their relationship with movement or food, when there's a level of automation, because this is what I do, this is how I live. It's not waiting for the mood to strike. It's this is what I do, not because the mood is there. Then it's the decision fatigue goes into the background and you're not putting mental energy into that. And then in the meantime, you're also restoring yourself along the way. Because I do find that the hustle, push, force mentality gets amplified with trauma sometimes. And this is where it's like recognizing this is a pattern that's hurting me.
Mm-hmm.
It's not
Mm-hmm.
helping my business, it's sabotaging my business.
Yes,
So
exactly. Exactly.
if anyone's just joining us, so go back on the video, but we talked about first looking at your offers. What are you offering, right? How are you doing your work? And then how are you marketing? How are you showing up, right? And then your systems, how are you delivering? What's in place to support the structure that you need? There's some flexibility there, but you shouldn't be dreaming up your whole business week after week, right? It should be there's some simple structure, whether it's, how you deliver, when your creative time is, when your brainstorming and strategizing is, or when it's just hunker down and do the more mundane tasks.
Mhm. Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I love
Okay.
that you brought in launching too, because I think this is where planning is so powerful and so important, because it gives us the ability to really look at what's happening over a longer period of time and look at those launch periods and make sure that you're giving yourself the opportunities to rest. So you're not scheduling things back to back to back to back to back and not giving yourself that time and that space, right? Because it's not always a season to launch. It's not always a season, right? Like it's sometimes there are those seasons where you're just kind of going with the flow. And maybe that is a time when you're building skills or dreaming up what the next offer is going to be, or you know, whatever those things are happening. So it is really great too. Like for me, 90 days, like I think a quarter is a really beautiful time frame to look and to plan. Like the way that I like to plan, like my sort of method is big picture first, right? So like where do I want to be at the end of the year? I mean, typically we do this in January, but we do this all year long, you know, but where do I want to be at the end of this year or in 1 year from now, right? And based on where it is that I want to be, like what do I need to be doing right now? What do I need to be focusing on this quarter? Because a quarter I think is a really great time frame to look at because it's enough time to have a launch, maybe even two launches in there depending on what your business model is and what your offers are and all that stuff, right? But you know, you have time to like sort of look at that, to look at like what the ramp up is going to be, so how you're delivering and putting content together and things of that nature. You know, if you're somebody who likes doing like pop-up events, like workshops or things like that, right? You can sort of, you know, look at how all of that is happening. And then it gives you that opportunity to really look at what these systems are that you've set up and reevaluate and make sure that you have time and things, you know, in place to actually follow through. Because what also happens, so like I mentioned, I'm a mother of young kids. I actually just pulled my kids out of school. Now we do homeschooling as of very recently, these last couple of weeks. And so it looks different. But last year and up until now, I've had to look at the school calendar against my work calendar and make sure I'm not like launching during spring break or something like that, you know? So it's also about looking, you know, and I like to tell my clients too, like look at all the things that are important to you. Like for a lot of my clients, it's the astrology, it's the seasons, it's the cycles, right? That we're kind of like going through that we know you have more energy this season, less in that season, right? So it's really looking at all of that and making your plan from there so that you have your vacations set, right? And if you're looking at the year, like I kind of like to look at a big picture, like an at a glance picture of the year to say like, okay, you know, pop this in June. I know this is happening. Put this in here. I know I'm not doing anything in December, so nothing there, right? So then you can sort of look and plan your bigger activities, your bigger energy activities like a launch, and you're not overwhelming yourself or doing it at a time that's already going to be stressful for you because maybe your kids are home or whatever is happening in your life, right? So those are some things that I find to be really helpful to sort of put all of this together, like what we talked about, you know, look like having that time to sort of look at what the offers are, making sure they're aligned to your goals, look at what the channels are, how much time do you need to be setting up? Do you have enough time, right? Maybe there's a you know, somebody's doing a package with you, right? And you know, they're needing to have that time to actually like sit with and take the time to process like the things that are happening. And maybe that's not going to be a season where they're doing some bigger projects in their business. Like there are many things that could be coming up in life that we can really look at, you know, within the context of a 90-day plan.
Well, I think too, I find it can be helpful to have your downtime scheduled. Not only does it block out time that's the intention, but again, coming back to working with trauma the last 5 years, is sometimes it's our unconscious nervous system doesn't feel safe to slow down and rest. It's like someone comes, you could jump up and you look busy, right? And so it's an unconscious protection. So it can be a learning phase to learn downtime rather than simply recovery from burnout. That's not downtime, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when it's scheduled in, it can feel a little bit like a relief, like, oh, actually, this was intended to be a day that I don't have, or this 2 hours, or this half a day is scheduled to be wide open, unscheduled, and fly by the seat of my pants. So you're not like itching for something to do or looking under rocks or processing, what did I forget? I think it takes the pressure off to always need to perform.
Yes. Yes. And it's really important to notice, like, let's say you do proactively go and block these times off and you have a hard time with it. Like, if you find yourself getting those, you know, like, you know, oh, I should be doing something, right? You know, like that's when you really do have to look at the trauma, right? And have to look at like what it is that you're holding. And this is why, you know, strategy and you know, scheduling and planning, all of this is super important. But like the work that you do, Ramona, with the nervous system regulation and the, you know, healing of, you know, the trauma and all of those parts is like this all goes hand in hand because all this sounds really nice, you know, but when it comes time to put into practice, if you're finding yourself self-sabotaging, right, this is when you also need to go in and use some of those tools as well.
Well, there's always a reason. Like our nervous system is always trying to keep us safe, but we may not like the outcome of what it does. But I think long-term too. Like we need supports and systems in place to help us grow a business that nurtures us as well as provides. And that was not modeled in previous generations and in our business networking, our business experience. So it might make us who are more sensitive to feel like something's wrong with me if I can't do it that way. So I think it's important to have, entrepreneurs like you come forward and first of all, validate that need for a better way and also provide tangible strategic ways to get there, not just fluff
Mm-hmm.
and hoping to manifest your way to it. I mean, that's great, but in between there's a gap, right? How do we begin? So
Right.
I think we need both.
We need both. We need both.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Is there anything else you want to add? Like, so for those who are listening and want to find out more about how Alyssa helps entrepreneurs with creating a life first strategy while building a successful business, what do people need to know to find you, Alyssa?
Yeah. So like I mentioned, I'm in the middle of a rebrand right now, but for right now, you can go to my website, alyssanapcoaching.com, or connect with me either here on Facebook or on Instagram, Integrative Wellness Journeys. Future will be Boss Frequency.
Okay.
And right now, next week, I have my quarterly planning party, which is an event that I do 4 times a year. And during that 90-minute workshop, we are going to be pretty much walking through everything that we talked about today, as far as mapping out the next 90 days, getting really clear on what the offers are that you're going to do, getting really clear on what the quarter looks like. Like we're going into the holidays, right? We're going into, we're looking at October, November, December, 3 really crazy months. So it's going to have an opportunity to look at what business looks like while also allowing that time to be with your family, to shop for the holidays, to cook, to volunteer, whatever the things are that you do during this time, without sacrificing growth, right? Because while not every season is a season of growth and expansion, what we don't want to happen is the holidays come, we get all we do all the last minute stuff, right? And then our business suffers. And then January comes, we feel like we have to start from the beginning again. So this is a great opportunity to look and see, okay, how do I want to plan to, at minimum, maintain, at best, maybe grow? This actually is a time when a lot of people do spend a lot of money, even in the service industry, on things like coaching and stuff. So, it is a really good time to make sure that you are showing up and staying present while still having that time to, again, regulate, have the time for, for family, for friends, for all of those things. So that is on Thursday, September 25th. It's 11 to 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It is on Zoom. It does come with, actually, there's a little course that I created with like an Align to Thrive little routine. So it gives you like a nice manifestation exercise and planning resource and things of that nature. So if anybody wants to come live and do that with me next week, we'll be doing that.
Good. So I'll invite you to put all of that in the comments on our live stream. So anyone who's like driving and listening, oh, where do I find that? I'll invite you to put all the links there. I don't see any immediate questions. So I'll thank you, Alyssa, for joining me. I think these are wonderful. This is a wonderful place to start and to help entrepreneurs to know there is a way to do this and there is a strategic. It's not just about hoping and dreaming and wishing to get to that place. And then I invite anyone who, really is loving this conversation to connect with Alyssa for her next steps coming up. Let me just see if I know how to stop.